Hello, and welcome to Good News Rhode Island, the show about Rhode Island and all the people and places and events that make Rhode Island a great place to live, that build our communities and help us to know more about each other and the world around us. We hope that you're remembering the food bank at this time. They definitely need your help, so please take food either to your local food bank or to the Rhode Island Food Bank on Niantic Avenue in Providence. Today, we're going to talk about food. Who would have ever thought that hair and donuts could be in the same sentence, or certainly in the same book title? But Joy Feldman is here. She is writing about nutrition and the way we eat, the way we feed our children, the way we feed ourselves, and the future, the impact on the future of the way we eat, which seems like that also is a disconnect, but the truth is that we're affecting ourselves in long-term ways with the way we eat. So welcome, Joy.
Thank you.
And you are about to do a statewide read.
Yes.
Your book has been chosen, Your Hair is Made of Donuts, to be a statewide read, so all of the kids will be hearing about it, and we hope that you'll enjoy watching Joy here, so get to know a little bit about her. Joy, you haven't always been in nutrition. Something happened in your life that changed you and made you realize you needed to eat healthily.
Yes. About 20 years ago, I was quite ill. I had an autoimmune issue that affected all the joints in my body. And the doctors weren't quite sure which category I would fit into, whether it was a rheumatoid issue or lupus. But they treated me with the disease, and I was getting sicker and sicker. I had a little baby. I had worked in a big international law firm for many years, and I stopped working, had my child, and after I delivered him, I was quite ill. We wound up moving to Arizona, where my husband was doing his fellowship. He's an orthopedic surgeon. And I got connected with an MD who doesn't practice medicine. He just does nutrition. And he cut a little bit of my hair. And from the hair, you can see what's going on inside the body on a cellular level. And within doing the program, which was diet, supplements, lifestyle changes, all of my blood work normalized in about 6 weeks. Now, I wasn't perfect at all in 6 weeks, but I knew I was on my road to recovery. And I'll never forget the day my rheumatologist looked at me and he said, "Joy, whatever you're doing, go do it. It's working." And so that's where I basically began my journey to health. And we moved to Rhode Island shortly after that. And that little baby I was telling you about was getting ready to go to college, about 6, 7 years ago, and I thought it's time for me to go back into the workforce. I had another child along the way there, where I have 2 children, and I thought, nutrition, this is really what I love. It taught me how to take care of myself and my family. I got well. And so the doctor who turned my health around actually became my mentor. And I went back to school, got all of my training, and now I have a worldwide practice of clients who look to improve their health. I do work off the hair, and hence, it's one of the ways I came up with the title of the children's book, Is Your Hair Made of Donuts?
There's a secret in there and all of that story, which is very complex, and that is what you had been eating. Why don't we start with that?
I was not a great eater. I loved candy, and I ate a lot of pizza. I worked very hard. I probably worked close to 100 hours a week in this law firm, and I didn't get a lot of rest. And food really wasn't a priority. It was basically anything caffeinated to keep me awake and so that I can keep producing. And I knew somewhere deep inside that it wasn't right, but I wasn't quite sure how to find the answer.
So you were stressing your body in three ways,
Multiple
at
ways,
least,
yes,
which was that
yes.
you had a lot of stress.
Yes.
You didn't get a lot of sleep, which also helps us to use our nutrients well.
Correct.
You were not eating properly. You used a lot of caffeine, which
Yes.
also speeds up the metabolism.
And floods the body with stress hormones, more of them.
And you
yes.
probably didn't eat in a regular schedule, which
No.
also was supposed to be important.
Yes.
So
yes.
you were doing like most of us who
Yes.
are type A. You were doing everything wrong, which I did
Exactly.
also for a while in my life. So yes, I understand that completely. And so you had two children, and
Yes.
you decided you were going to raise them differently.
Yes.
To teach them to eat differently.
Yes.
And so what did your doctor begin to tell you after he looked at your hair and saw the donuts? What did he tell you you needed to do?
Well, I removed all caffeine, all artificial foods from my diet completely. Then lots and lots of cooked vegetables, proteins, healthy fats, nothing artificial, a tremendous amount of water. Distilled water we did for a couple of months because that's a way to help pull out the heavy metals from the body. And I learned to rest and meditate. All of those things helped me find my health, and lots of supplements as well.
So no caffeine.
Nothing.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And no what we would say processed foods.
Zero.
So you only ate fresh vegetables, fresh fruits,
Yes.
and good meats.
And very little fruit, actually. The focus is on vegetables because they're very mineral rich, and the minerals are necessary to cause enzymatic reactions in the body to produce energy. Fruits have, benefits, but not as much as vegetables. So I used to probably have 3/4 of my plate of cooked vegetables and a small amount of protein at every meal.
And the fruit is always the reward.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And it
yes.
can be the dessert.
Exactly.
So then you started writing for kids. How did you teach your kids to eat differently? What language to use? I once told my son that if he was really good and ate all of his food, I would give him carrots for dessert.
Ah.
And that did not work in the least. He already knew at age 2 or something that carrots were not what he needed to eat to please his sweet tooth.
Oh my goodness. So one of the things I did with my children is I always had them in the kitchen with me. We were always cooking together. Even to this day, they're all grown up now. We all cook together. We enjoy our food together. I've always taught them and educated them on what really serves their body and the importance of healthy eating. So they really didn't know anything else till they went off to school and they saw other children having, processed foods and candies, and they would come home and say, "Mom, what are all those worm type of candies?" And I said, "I really don't know." And I know they would taste it, but they were so used to good food that they really didn't, have it. Even when they tasted soda at a party, I remember them looking at me and saying, "I don't understand why people would even drink that. It doesn't taste good." So we even did fresh vegetable juices. I always made fresh carrot juice for them in the morning. Lots of teas. We would go outside and make sun teas together. We belonged to a community-supported agriculture group, so they would come with me to the farm. They knew where the vegetables came from and how they grew. So I really began when they were very young.
Recently we had Farm Fresh and other CSAs here, so we certainly have it in Rhode Island more and more. There are more farms.
Yes.
So your children didn't have the vocabulary. Did they watch TV? Were they told by TV that they should have Twinkies or whatever?
No, we weren't a TV family, so that cut out a big part of the problem because
you
children
cooked rather than watch TV.
We cooked and we shopped together, and we were together. And the TV would really only come on maybe on the weekend, to watch a cooking show. Something like that.
So many times I'm in the grocery store and I hear kids saying, "Mom, can't we get this?" And Mom will say, put that back now, we're not buying that today, or whatever. First of all, processed food is very much more expensive.
Yes, it is.
Maybe 5 times more expensive than a carrot is to buy frozen carrots or whatever. But kids really listen to each other. The primary way they learn is through peer groups.
Yes.
And so it's really hard for parents to, in the middle of the grocery store, have this discussion about what is going to be bought and what can be eaten and why and the effect that it has on the body. It seems to me that there needs to be a book like yours and a discussion that takes place outside of the pressure point of shopping.
Yes. There definitely needs to be a dialogue that started at home with the children, teaching them how important it is to take care of their bodies, and that we really only get one body, and that we need to honor it and take care of it. There seems to be a tremendous disconnect from what we put into our bodies and how it affects our well-being. So I believe we need to educate the children starting right from when they're young. And you know, one of the issues that came up with my clients are the ones who really encouraged me to put the book together. And they said, you need to write something about children in, you know, the cafeteria, because there's so much teasing that goes on when they have a healthy apple, and everybody's eating, you know, some kind of frozen or prepared snack. They pick on each other, so there is peer pressure. So my hope in going to the schools, I've now read to close to 20,000 children from last March. I brought my juicer. Every child tries carrot juice. And I must tell you the good news. The good news is that every single school I've gone to, carrot juice wins as being their favorite drink. We give them a yum and yuck taste test contest. And the parents sometimes come in and they're shocked. Kids are asking for 2 and 3 cups of carrot juice. So
we have to make carrot juice.
It's very easy.
Oh, you should have brought your mixer.
All you really need is a juicer and fresh carrots. The schools I go to usually provide the carrots. I bring in my juicer, and the kids are fascinated. We make the fresh juice together, and
so it's carrot juice and water.
No, just straight carrot juice. It's just carrots put into the processor. I use a juicer which extracts the liquid out of the carrots. And it's sweet. It tastes just like carrots. And it's wonderful for their bodies. It's got lots of vitamin A. It builds the immune system. Great for their skin, especially for my teens who, you know, when I go and I visit middle schools, you know, I always say to them, this is the age and everybody wants beautiful hair and beautiful skin. Carrot juice is a wonderful thing to drink for that.
I've heard avocado is really good. How about avocado juice or mixture?
Oh, yeah, I've never tried that. But I tell the kids they can put cucumbers in. You could put celery in it. You could try different things.
So what you need is a juicer, and stop buying the Coke and Diet Coke and all the things that we all drink all the time. It's a sign of good times. I mean, it's just advertising that we think Coke makes us happy, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's model the hat and then talk a little bit about what happens when you eat a donut.
Okay. Okay. So this is the donut hat. This is what I wear when I read to the children. It was created here in Rhode Island by a gentleman who makes hats. His name is Everett Hoke, and I brought him the picture from the book, and I asked him to please try to create a hat for me that looks like the cover of the book.
Maybe you can read a little bit from the book from the beginning, because we need to know what this story is about.
Sure. Okay. Clapping their hands wildly, Matt and Maddie finished their healthy lunches as quickly as they could and tore into the treats just like the starving, ferocious dragon that didn't exist. Maddie lined her donuts up in a row, from the smallest to the largest, and she carefully investigated and touched and smelled each one. And Matt constructed a tower. On the bottom was a jelly donut and a chocolate and a sweet pinwheel, and he layered the cookies and donuts on top of each other. He even added whipped cream and a cherry, and with excited eyes, Matt and Maddie ate each and every bite down to the last crumb. Later that day, Matt moaned, "My stomach hurts." "Mine too," said Maddie, "but don't tell Mom. She'll never let us eat junk food again." Getting ready for bed, they brushed their teeth and said thank you to their mom for the wonderful treats. "I wonder what I'll have tomorrow," said Matt, burping each word like a foghorn. And when Mom went to their room, Mattie tried to hide her grumbling belly. It was so loud it sounded like a donut-filled dragon was roaring inside. But Mom didn't say anything. She kissed Mattie and wished her sweet dreams. Closing their eyes, they entered a dream that was filled with sweets. Did I keep going? Mattie looked over at her brother and giggled, and Matt's hair was getting curly and dark, and it looked like his head was oozing chocolate. Mattie's head was covered with so many bright colors that Matt had to put on his sunglasses just to see what was going on. "He left your hair! It has sprinkles in it!" And they ran to the mirror to see what was happening. "Oh no," they shouted. Matt's head was covered with huge chocolate and white powdery donuts oozing a ton of ooey gooey gobs of jelly. And Mattie's head was decorated like a Christmas tree. It was twinkling and sparkling.
Marie Antoinette of donuts.
And I must tell you how I came up with the title of the book.
Yes.
That little child I told you about that I couldn't take care of was getting ready to go to college. And we were all in the airport with him at 7 o'clock at Green. And I was amazed to watch how many children were eating donuts at that hour. And not only donuts, but they were also eating candy. Now at the airport, they have these clear plastic bins, like in movie theaters, filled with candy. And they were selling candy very early in the morning. And I sat down and I watched all of these children eating all of this candy and these neon-colored blue drinks. And a few minutes later, I looked at my husband and I'm like, "Look at these children, they're all crying." They were laying on the floor saying their head hurt, their stomach hurt. And, you know, I got onto the airplane. I knew that I had to teach children that they are what they eat. And I knew the hair reflected that. And I had one of those aha moments. And I looked at my husband and my children. I go, "Oh my goodness, I thought of the title of the kids' book. Is your hair made of donuts?"
And the truth is, it is. It shows donuts.
It does. It does.
And you have an adult book
Yes.
that you have written, and it is called Joyful Cooking, and it sounds very interesting. It's about cooking fresh.
And it also, the program that got me well is a nutritional balancing program where we work off the hair to see what's going on in the biochemistry. And then the program is specifically focused on basically on what the cells are kind of telling us to do. So I'd like to just share a little bit about what nutritional balancing science includes. Nutritional balancing involves an integration of scientific systems or concepts, both ancient and modern, and is a formula for anyone who wants improved health. It focuses on the underlying stress response patterns in the human body, rather than chasing symptoms. A healing system that draws from many branches of science, nutritional balancing incorporates knowledge from the fields of biochemistry, physiology, nutrition, stress theory, pathology, psychology, as well as ancient concepts like acupuncture. It offers specific applications of hair tissue mineral analysis, diet, supplementary nutrients, detoxification protocols, and lifestyle changes to raise one's energy as a means to restore balance.
So what you're saying is the scientific community could really get behind this.
Yes.
And help to educate us, as well as continue to do research to show how the body is affected in the long term.
Exactly.
With what we eat.
Exactly.
And your goals are many. I have to say they're most admirable. When you have your statewide read coming up in March, you're hoping to educate children about the importance of eating healthy.
Yes, yes.
Maybe you should talk about your goals, motivate children to celebrate their own health, their own bodies.
Yes. I was contacted by a health advocate who really felt there was a lot of health issues for young people, and she thought the book would be a wonderful fit. And we joined forces and we sat down and we all thought, we have got to get the message to children. We need an act of solidarity where the entire state comes around children and supports them in an act of synergy to help promote healthy eating. And my hope really with this is that the littlest state in the country, Rhode Island, can have the biggest impact on children's health, and that we could take this to the nation and teach all of our children the importance of eating really good foods and that we are what we eat. There is no way around that concept.
Recently, I read in a magazine a very short article that said that children under teenage who ate 3 meals a week at a fast food restaurant were 30% more likely to have asthma. Yes. Children who were teens who ate 3 meals a week at fast food restaurants were 40% more likely to have asthma. And I just think we just aren't thinking about our future and how we want our children to have health when they're 100, because also 1 in 3 persons given normal nutrition will live to be 100 or more, the children that are being born right now. And so we want them to have a good experience. So we want them to be able to breathe well and to run well and to move well. So this is your goal, I guess, and a good goal for the state. So you're hoping to develop a reading culture as well. How does that fit in?
Yes, well, the story is, you know, it's written down for children. They can read it. There's a teaching curriculum that goes along with the book as well. But I'd like to establish a reading culture where the kids, you know, read. They can write their own stories. And maybe this will even spur some young people to grow up and be writers and help other children learn how to be healthy eaters.
It would be great to have children's posters or children's stories displayed in local libraries, for example, or in the halls of schools.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I'm offering children in this statewide read, some of the schools will be participating, is I'm putting a book together at the end of this year from all the schools I've traveled to with having children write a healthy recipe. And what I'm hoping to do is that they'll write a story about how that food might be a part of their family and a way to have children encourage other children to eat healthy. So, you know, without your health, you have nothing. And children are laying their foundations for their future when they're young. And just as I teach the children in the book, if you have a weak foundation, the building is going to fall down. So this is the time now to get the children to have a very strong foundation so they grow up to be healthy and productive.
We want our kids to act, to be busy, to be outside, to be running, to be jumping.
Yes.
And we think of that as being health. Yes. But now you're saying there's another component, and it's so fundamental to life.
Yes.
It's so fundamental to the way our society is functioning right now. What are the fast foods that you can eat and still be healthy?
Yes. I was just asked this. I just spoke at a school here in Rhode Island to a bunch of middle school age children, and they said, what do we do if our parents take us through a drive-through? So we have a few choices. Most drive-thrus now have some salads that you can get, so I recommend that they try to go with the salads. If they want a hamburger, chicken, take the bread off. The wheat products in themselves today are highly inflammatory, and they have multiple chemicals in them. So I say to them, you know, if you really feel like you need a hamburger, take the bread off and get a salad and have that on the side. So that's a nice
hamburger
option.
On salad would be good.
That would be
There are
fine.
also yogurts offered at some of the drive-through places.
Yes, I don't know what's in those ingredients, but I
looks like fruit.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay.
So your other goals are to enhance children's ability to listen. Now, I assume that that has something to do with how many additives there are or are not in their food.
Exactly.
Because children listen differently when they haven't been eating things that are toxic for them.
Exactly. So children can't attend well today in schools. They can't focus, they can't sit there and pay attention and take in what the teachers are saying. So we have to really work on establishing healthier breakfasts, providing healthier snacks in school, having parents pack healthier snacks. And also by sitting and listening and reading the story, it's another way to take in the knowledge. Some children do better by hearing, some children do better by, you know, visual learning too. So we need to get all the senses going.
But listening is one of the things you talked about that we sort of glossed over.
Yes.
Was the fact that you learned to meditate.
Yes.
And you learned that silence was really an important part of taking care of your body.
Very important.
Which we don't think of at all for our children. We make sure that they have something active
Yes.
all the time. They're going to all kinds of lessons.
Yes.
They're filled with children's playing.
Yes.
Maybe we need to learn to have, we need another book to talk to us about having time to be quiet and to really listen to what's going on inside of ourselves. And for children to value their own mind.
That is a brilliant point you just made. Thank you. One of the things I do when I go and visit schools, especially with my older children that I visit, the middle school age children, is we do a mindful eating period where I will bring in different vegetables, maybe some peas, or we'll do raisins, and I ask the children, I play beautiful music in the background, and I ask the children to chew their food 20 to 30 times. There's no talking. I want them to taste the food, be aware of what they're feeling, be able to receive things, and to be aware of what they need. Because most of us aren't in touch with our needs. It's important.
And the only way to do that is to step back,
yes,
it seems to me, and to spend time. We basically have gotten away from going to churches and synagogues and mosques, but now we need to have a different kind of self-awareness that's a sort of a meditative. I don't know if we could build that into children's lives. I don't know. But anyway. Okay, a feeling of belonging to a community supporting
yes.
childhood health.
That's important.
This is what your book is trying to do. It's trying to say to every library and every school, please think about the health of children and supply the books and the materials that are needed for children to continue to learn about taking care of their body.
Absolutely, and I think it's very important for the children to feel supported, to know that they have a place to turn, and to know that the adults in the community are coming around them to stand behind them and help them achieve health.
What is health literacy?
Health literacy is having a knowledge of what your body needs, how it works, what's good for you. Have a working dialogue with certain terms so that you understand why it's important to take care of your body.
I can imagine that you would help to build curricula in the schools
yes.
where even a math program could have something about measuring, and a history program could have something to do with health. And
exactly.
It seems to me nomadic tribes followed the kinds of grains that grew easily,
yes.
and food has been a major part in our formation
yes.
as cultures.
Yes. I do provide a full curriculum that accompanies the book that the teachers can download for free on my website, either joyfeldman.com or isyourhairmadeofdonuts.com. And it covers all of the subjects.
Well, I want to thank you, Joy, for being here, and thank you for your passion about this. It really will make a difference in our future. It will make a difference in our children. And I want to thank you. Maybe you could tell us how the story ends. I'm going to hold up the dream and tell us how the story ends.
The story ends with the two children going by their mirror to make sure there are no sprinkles in their hair or donuts. And when the little girl leans over, she notices that there's a sprinkle on her cheek. And so they both start to think, you know, is this a dream or not?
So they wonder if their hair is really made of donuts.
And there's some healthy recipes as well that accompany the book at the end as well.
Okay, so all of us can do really healthy things. Thank you for watching Good News Rhode Island, and thank you, Joy, for being here, Joy Feldman. We hope that you will read this book with your kids, with your family, and you will talk about your food together. Good news is right around the corner in your neighborhood, and probably you're helping to make it. Thank you for watching Good News Rhode Island.